Hello, I'm Regina Houston, a Google Cloud Technical Account Manager on the Professional Services team working with PwC. I'm excited to be here today with Adrian Schutte, the Global Change Director at PwC, about how PwC migrated more than 275,000 users to G Suite.
Hey, Regina, thanks for having me. I'm excited to tell our story.
Great. So Adrian leads a globally distributed change management team responsible for coordinating change initiatives across PwC's network of firms in over 150 countries. Adrian has over 20 years of experience driving cultural change and transformation for clients throughout the world. Starting in 2013, Adrian helped spark a cultural revolution, leading the implementation of G Suite across over 275,000 people within PwC. And today, Adrian leads global change initiatives across all PwC's lines of service. So, Adrian, our original plan was to talk about the PwC journey with your G Suite implementation, which wrapped earlier this year. But obviously, a lot has changed in the world, and there's even more to talk about today.
Yeah, you can say that, Regina, for sure. As you mentioned, we just finished the whole thing in January 2020, and then COVID-19 happened. The world shut down, and we're a relationships business. Suddenly, we weren't at client sites, we weren't in the office, we weren't anywhere in the world. We were all at home. And being seen and connecting for our business, a relationships business, is very key. So it's very strange, but we still had to stay connected all the same. Our business doesn't stop. So although unexpected, we were totally ready. And honestly, our technology was the key. As our offices all over the world shut down, we shifted to distributed work. And notice, I'm not saying remote work here. All of a sudden, we had 275,000 distributed people in all their own offices and all their own places, but not remote. Remote implies isolated. And with the G Suite tools, with Meet, Chat, we certainly weren't isolated. Turn on your camera. Like today, I feel I'm right there with you. Some pretty interesting statistics that I want to share, some exponential growth, if you will. We're running 5 million Meet video conferences a month. That's up 4 times since January 2020. 4 times. It's 6 times over May of last year in 2019. And most importantly, in my mind, from a behavioral point of view, sure, people are using the technology, but they're turning on their cameras. We've seen a 30% increase in camera usage, which I think really helps that sense of connection and lack of isolation. And 78% of people who have Google accounts in PwC have created a Meet link and started a Meet. So I think those numbers kind of speak for themselves. We've also seen a 5-fold increase in messaging on chat. We're sending 10 million messages a month versus 2 million in January 2020. And that's 85% of our network is using chat. What's pretty interesting too, all of a sudden, everybody had to reimagine the way we worked. We worked with Google to release G Suite visitor sharing, one of the newest features. We were able to share files suddenly with even clients who don't have G Suite. It was such a huge leap, real excitement in our network and real excitement with our clients. Even our clients noticed, they said, boy, you guys are just continuing to work kind of as normal. We can still see you over Meet. We can still talk to you just as if we were in the conference room. They've asked us, hey, how did you do this? Why is it so seamless? And the answer is we were ready. We've been preparing for this for a long time. And while I'm focused here on Meet and Chat, our Drive and all our editors, numbers, our files, everything has gone through the roof in terms of usage.
Wow, that is quite a shift. So let's talk a bit about what it took to get PwC ready for that.
So only 5 years in a journey of 156 countries, I would say it certainly wasn't overnight. We didn't see the pandemic coming and saying, oh my gosh, we got to get ready. Our leaders had a lot of foresight in moving to G Suite and moving to the cloud ahead of time. So kind of started around 2013 where we chose Google. We had a lot of different choices, but we chose Google and we kind of moved through that. In that time, we were the first cloud mover in PwC and kind of, it was slow kind of going. And you can see on this slide, there's a number of waves that we went through and how we took our various countries, and it sped up over time. And then leading to, as I mentioned, January 2020, when we did our last deployment. But as any good person, change person will tell you, let's go back and look at why we went Google. That's even more important than the journey and how we went Google with the dates. So why we went Google, we knew digital transformation was a business imperative. The original business case, agnostic of technology, like take the name of the vendor out of the picture. We had to move to cloud. Infrastructure was being far too expensive. Cloud was the wave of the future. We more importantly even needed to change the way our people work, needed to reduce hierarchy. And we're accountants and auditors, and there's a lot of workflows and processes, and we needed to smooth that out, especially because we work on so many multinational clients. We needed to look and appear to our clients and in the market as if we were one company, not 156 countries trying to pass work back and forth over email. So that was really big for us, changing the way our people work and changing those processes and workflows. We also needed to make work easier and better for our people, kind of having the same experience you have at home, have it at work. That was really a business case reason for us, and improving that efficiency and productivity. And even probably most importantly, it was the innovation piece. Wanted to show that we are very innovative and we are ahead of our time, if you will, and we wanted to be a showcase in the market, both to our clients and of course to attract new people to the firm. Those were the key things we were looking for, Regina.
Great. And what would you say were the key components that got the team excited about G Suite?
Well, first and foremost, it was key that we worked with a supplier that was going to keep our clients' data safe. Our clients entrust us with all kinds of data, and security was a really big thing in our minds. But other than that, collaboration, the real-time collaboration I was mentioning earlier, that secure communication experience, no matter it's fantastic that the experience is the same among whatever device you're on. Our partners all have laptops, of course, but they love to work on their iPads. And it's amazing that you can work on your iPad and have the same experience you can have on your phone or your PC. Very rarely, we didn't see that anywhere else. And productivity. So as I mentioned, we're looking for a familiar ecosystem. So many universities and even high schools and grade schools, if I'm correct now, are using Google. So people graduating and coming into the workforce, they're familiar with it. People use Google at home. That was a big plus for us too. Now, I will say Google at PwC is not Google in the wild. There's slight differences there because we're a highly regulated business, but generally people are like, oh, Google, amazing, I get it. And of course, the rapid innovation that G Suite brings, I feel like every time I sit down on my computer in the morning, I'm like, wow, something new's happened. And it's so seamless. We're not sitting around waiting for like, holy cow, that release was supposed to be 3 months ago. Where is it? It just kind of seamlessly happens.
Yeah. PwC and Google have worked closely on this deployment over the past several years, but you guys really did all the heavy lifting for real transformation. So what does that look like?
You know, I've heard it said often enough that real transformation takes anywhere between 3 and 6 years. And I can firmly attest around year 4, 4.25, I looked around and suddenly Google was everywhere in PwC in the network. And as I have a global role, I could see it across territories, honestly, in finance and HR, the way we recruited, the way we did interviews with new recruits. It was amazing. So definitely 4 years, but it's a transformation in 3 acts over that time. First is deployment. Right out of the box, you get amazing tools. Fantastic. That's great. That's one. And that's where the collaboration starts. Fantastic. But day 2, that day kind of right after deployment, yeah, that's when behaviors start transforming. And that's what you really want to look for. That's the key to this for sure, is getting people to actually change what they're doing. Not do exactly what they did before, but in new technology, but even change that and get that efficiency. And then, of course, the third act is the never-ending journey. We tell people this is the project that never stops. It's absolutely true. You're constantly talking about adoption and sustainability. So it's pretty amazing. Journey in 3 parts. It's great, but it takes time.
Well, you make it sound really easy. So can you speak to some of the challenges or blockers that you had to overcome?
Sure. I mentioned before, this was our first cloud endeavor. So just even educating everybody about what is the cloud, how does that work, is our data safe, was a big challenge for sure. And the key one I'd really draw out here is that most people thought, this is just an IT project, just turn it on and be fine. No way. Do not assume that. We also had very strict business rules because of our regulated environment that we had to abide by and keep data secure. And as I mentioned, still a lot of legacy customized technology in play. So a lot of that brought us quite interesting challenges. But I think, though, if I think about our lessons learned, so what did we actually learn out of all of this? One is meet people where they are. No one deployment way or how to do that, it's not going to work. So be thinking about meet people where they are, understand where they're coming from. Don't just talk at people, work with people, bring them along on the journey. Make sure your team is experts on the tools, the people who are deploying it. We did so much support in the early days, both the technical team as well as the change team. It's about getting the users, our people. I honestly don't like that word users, and I just said it, getting our people over the line and changing behaviors and seeing that it's possible. The other thing is you got to tell the mission again and again and again. That's so important. You'll get tired of saying it. People, I always said the first time somebody tells me, I've heard that so many times, stop it. It never happened. You have to keep people on the vision and the mission. That's so important. And the last thing I'd say, smaller deployments, you might think, well, I only have 39 people to bring onto Google. It's going to be easy. Again, I'll just turn it on. No, smaller deployments are actually way more challenging than bigger deployments. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. But making advocates at every level of the organization, both at the top and all the way down, is really the key to making this happen.
Yeah, it sounds like the key to success was really winning over the hearts and minds across myriad stakeholders. So can you actually expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Our mantra through this whole thing was progress, not perfection. Keep moving, keep getting better. And really, that's how we look at Google. Google just keeps getting better. It's never going to stop. So it works quite well. And that's what we've always said to folks. And now it's kind of neat in the network. I hear that term in a lot of different places, but I think it's true. Anything, when you're in transformation, that's what happens. The neat thing here, you talk about winning hearts and minds. When we say change management, a lot of people say, oh, that's just fluffy communications. That's fluffy stuff. It's balloons. It's a guy in a muscle t-shirt at Go Live. But the real change that we're talking about, practical and consumable change, we taught our people to expect constant change. This is not going to stop. Whether it's implementation of Google or any other technology or any process change, constant change is the name of the game in today's world. We built leadership advocacy. We had everybody telling the story over and over and over again. We converted leaders to our way of thinking. We focused on those desired behaviors. And Regina, I'll give you an example. When we would go in and sit with our partners to say, hey, let me talk to you about Google, we wouldn't say, oh, let me train you and here's my training presentation and let's go through A to Z. I'd say, look, tell me how you work. How do you work today? And how can I make your work better and more efficient? And that's really about winning their hearts and minds there. And we engage people. We met them where they are. My favorite part of the implementation, though, is we answered questions over and over and over. So imagine 5 years, 275,000 people. People know our names. They know our team's names. I have this amazing team that, certainly don't want to let you believe it was me by myself. I have a fantastic team. And they know our names. They know our faces. They know who we are. We did not hide behind an email box. And we took everything on and answered those questions. It's really key. So I call it maybe Groundhog Day on answering questions.
Great. So switching gears a bit, I hear a lot of customers talk about the importance of quantifying G Suite adoption. So how did you approach that?
When we're talking about behaviors, and that's really our focus here, which is quite key. We need to measure what does good look like when you're talking about behaviors. Is very challenging in the beginning. When we talked to Google, you guys are great, but you didn't have a statistic on that either. And said, well, we can tell you how many people log in, but it just didn't really fit what we were looking for. So let's talk about our ROI challenge. Cost savings metrics don't fully show how G Suite drives global business transformation. This isn't a dollar for dollar ROI equation. So I would advise anyone watching this to really take that under advisement when you're thinking about deploying your own effort here with G Suite. And there was no, as I mentioned, no out-of-the-box KPIs. So we really step back and look through, if we're looking for behaviors, how first of all, what does good look like? What are good behaviors? And then how do we find the data to support that? So in benchmarking, what does good look like? We came up, all the data is in BigQuery, a fantastic resource for us. But first we had to say, what are good behaviors? For us, it was things like turning on the camera. We know that if people turn on the camera, you have a much more engaged meeting. Again, I feel like I'm sitting across the table from you now, even here, and we can make our meetings shorter, more engaged, fantastic. We saw people printing less. We decided that was a really good behavior, lower printing. So behaviors like that, I'd say we did about 5 behaviors roughly that had a number of dimensions to them. And then the key, what you see here is we assigned a score. We said, okay, we're going to match behaviors with frequency of usage of the technology and then assign a score on what we call good. And the 100 doesn't really mean anything. You know, I tell people don't get, you know, am I a 62? Am I a 90? It doesn't really matter. It's more, how do you compare to your neighbors, both in your country and as well as in the network? And that's what you're seeing compared on the screen, is how behavior and use of the technology changes over time. So let me go a little bit into what a monthly scorecard looks like. So we developed these metrics. You'll see on the left-hand side, when we distribute these scorecards to territories, we say, here's some adoption focus suggestions for you based on your numbers. Frequency of use by tool, fantastic. You can see at a glance. And then we give you a frequency score, which is how you're using the technology, which is fine. But again, it's only part of the story. And you can see this particular example, the frequency score for the country was 61. The global average score is 49. So I'm saying to the territory, awesome, you're beating the global average, fantastic. And then your behavioral score is 39 out of 36. Again, great, you're beating the global average, you're doing better, because that's what everybody wants to know. We're very competitive at PwC, and we always want to know how we're doing compared to our neighbor. And then your average adoption score is a 50. And then we tell you kind of where you're doing well.
Great. Wow, that's tremendous. So what would you say to someone considering implementing G Suite on how to set up the implementation for success?
Absolutely, the first 12 weeks are key. It's really important. Over all the data that we have now, we have close to, I think, 19 or 20 months of data. We've noticed that from day one, meaning day one that you go live, those first 12 weeks, whatever those behaviors are, both on using the technology as well as your people's behavior, normally that's kind of where you're going to be. You might move a little up, you might move a little down. We're people, it's not going to be exactly perfect every time. First 12 weeks are key. So definitely plan on that when you're looking forward into the future, and plan your resources to expect that. So I want to talk a little bit about which activities added the most value in our implementation, and how did we get there for the first 12 weeks. First one I'll mention is change splaining, and someone on my team coined this, so well done to him for this. This is making sure we forensically examine every bit of the impact. So when we make a change, let's talk about Google's retiring Hangouts soon. Yes, and we're moving to chat. So we've been looking at what will that move mean to our people from every angle. What does it mean to any history they have in Hangouts? What does it mean to their experience on their laptop? What does it mean to their experience on their mobile device? And really, one by one, examining each of those things, and then coming up with, how do we explain this in a way that people can digest it and easily understand? That's what we call change splaining. Also, accelerating change. It's not just about communications like, yes, email, newsletter, all fantastic. Make sure you have a strong network that drives change, that you do many different activities to drive that change. We have a thing we call bite-sized training. We say, look, you got 15 minutes, we'll help you learn Google, come join us. I mean, Regina, everybody has 15 minutes. I'm sure even you, right? No, you're super busy, but we put out tips and work hacks, and that's really where we've seen a lot of success in driving the change. And then really listening to the business, giving people an opportunity to provide feedback and acting on that feedback, and certainly working with Google on that feedback.
And finally, can you speak to the general impact of the G Suite implementation on your overall business practices?
Sure. So how we've changed. So as I mentioned, meat usage is up like crazy. That's amazing. Of course, the pandemic contributed to that, but even before that, we saw that. But I think if I had to really narrow it down, the ability to co-create files in Drive, it decreased the speed it takes us to create any documents. It produced much higher quality results. It's actually changed our culture, where before you would never give a document or a deliverable to a partner before it was completely done, dusted, checked. Now we've helped people understand it's okay that people make micro contributions along the way. I think the last time I totally owned one document by myself was in 2013. Now everything I do, other people weigh in, and it's that old, five heads are better than one kind of thing. And what's really neat is I don't hesitate to comment my partner in and say, hey, can you take a quick look at this? Are we going in the right direction? Leave a comment for him. He can respond from his phone. Fantastic. He's on the road, takes a quick peek, gives us direction, and it results in a much better deliverable overall. So Regina, I'd like to talk a little bit about digital innovation happening outside of IT. G Suite's amazing, the apps, all the stuff we get as part of the package. But what we're seeing, this innovation with AppScript and GCP, and it's really caught people on fire and caught their imagination. In the old days, we used to have to go to IT and say, oh, we need a program to do this, or we need an app to do that. We're seeing our regular client-facing people take AppScript and GCP and create amazing solutions. So some of the examples would be a mail merge. That's been super popular. A work hack where you can see who has access to all your files in Drive. My personal favorite is Peter on my team wrote a great work hack called Migrate Files to Shared Drive. I'm sure anyone watching, if you've used Shared Drive, you kind of know that pain, like, wait, I've got hundreds of files. How do I figure out who owns all these things so I can get the owner to move them to Shared Drive? This work hack solves that. But let's also talk a little bit about major business solutions. While those are great for efficiency and productivity for the everyday person, major business solutions like our global OGC case management system. OGC is our Office of General Counsel. They needed a way to track all the legal activities happening around the network in 156 countries. It's a pretty big job. They were talking about going to an outside vendor to get that developed. And, I have no idea what it would cost, but I'm guessing expensive. And the team started talking to Peter again on my team, and he created a fantastic OGC case management system using AppScript. He kept all the data confidential, secure. He figured out a way to where he never even saw the data himself, which met all of their requirements. And that's in use today. And the innovation continues everywhere at PwC.
Awesome. Well, Adrian, with that, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your insights about this incredible story of PwC's journey to G Suite.
Thanks, Regina, for giving us the opportunity and the time. I hope that this has been helpful for anybody considering their own journey to G Suite.
And thanks again to everyone for watching.